Welcome to the 10th edition of the Picky Bastards podcast, where we discuss new music as a facade to cover up for insulting each other. My name is Matt, and we're joined by our resident Picky Bastards in Manchester, Nick and Fran. How
Hello.
you guys doing?
How goes?
How's it going? You alright?
It's good. You sound very professional so far, Matt. I'm liking that.
Nothing but.
Yep.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about a festival. So it's a special episode, and this is one Fran is heading to, and It's the End of Road Festival. And it's going to take place in Dorset at the end of August on the 30th. And the headliners are Vampire Weekend, St. Vincent, Feist, and Yo La Tengo. And so we have 6 albums from artists that are all going to be there. And so we're going to be talking about Protomartyr with Relatives in Descent, Soccer Mummy with Clean, Ezra Furman with Transangelic Exodus, and Gruff Rhys with Set Fire to the Stars. We have the classic album, Yo La Tengo's I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. And lastly, I'm going to tell you about why I love Big Thief. And so let's get this started with some questions. I'm going to start with you, Nick.
Yes. Oh, you're going to start with me. Thank you. Thanks for putting me on the spot, and I'm so unprepared. Brilliant.
He's just learned the question, but everybody knows if he sounds like he's not got a clue, it's because he just realised we'd given him the questions.
About a month ago, didn't you?
Yeah, about a month ago. So
Yeah. Fair enough.
Some leeway.
I'll roll with the punches. It's fine.
Okay, so what album would you most like to see live?
So, I suppose, it's difficult because I'm quite tempted to talk about something which we can't talk about till later, the Big Thief stuff. But I'll stick with the main 5. I guess I would go with seeing Ezra Furman, actually. And I feel like there's a few reasons for that. I think it seems like a good energetic album that would be worth sort of digging into in a live setting. I will say that that doesn't mean that I love the album all the way through. In fact, I had a very big problem with the opening of the album. Actually, that's one of the unfortunate things about it. Is I think
Suck the blood from my wound.
Yeah, suck the blood from my wound.
Well,
yeah. Sorry,
you're an idiot.
To me, the album has a lot of. Let me go back a little bit. The album has a lot of strong parts. It has a lot of experimentation, particularly with like noise sounds and stuff, which I really liked. I thought.
Can we just go back a little bit and can you explain what a noise sound is, please?
I mean, like distorted synth sounds and broken guitar sounds.
Because I thought a noise and a sound were the same thing. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, fair enough. That's time corrected, but you see where I'm going with that. So there's a lot of that stuff going on in the album that I really liked, and I sort of got into that as I went through it a few times. I had to really fight against how much I disliked the opening song, which to me, I'm actually a little bit scared that I know what the name of the song is that this sounds like, but it sounds a lot like Bryan Adams.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds like the Summer of '69. Is it called the Summer of '69?
I mean, it sounds absolutely nothing like Summer of '69.
That is a song. I think it sounds like that. I'm sorry, and
I don't think you've ever heard Summer of '69.
It's not one of my favourites of all time.
Can we just overrule him on that?
No,
nonsense?
I actually don't think you can do that. Yeah. No. So it was really frustrating. The album started off that way and then turned into something more interesting as I went through it. And that's why I figure that in a live setting, it probably wouldn't be in this order for a start. And it might have some more stuff going on. It was kind of an old-fashioned sound as well in some ways. I quite like the way it blended between old-fashioned sort of road trip music almost. There was a lot of stuff about going traveling and stuff. So
I mean, it's actually a concept album about a road trip. 2 people escape. I think people escaping from prison or something. And there's kind of a road trip throughout it, which kind of was obvious, but you got there.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So to me, that's a kind of very old style genre, almost not quite a genre, sort of sub-genre, but I still thought it was interesting the way it blended that with these kind of broken tones a lot of the way through the album. So I like that. I liked No Place, is it called? That was one of the better, stronger songs on the whole album. I thought there were some songs that sounded a little bit St. Vincent-y. No, that's not a phrase.
It's better than noise sounds.
which was, for example, what's the one called? The dress, $8.99 at Goodwill.
Maraschino
red dress at $8.99 at Goodwill. Was very St. Vincent-y, but to me, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed the St. Vincent. I think people probably may remember that I wasn't that into St. Vincent when we came across it before. So yeah, it was worthwhile digging into, even though it was off-putting at the start with the cheesy, dated guitar riffing Bryan Adams cover at the start.
Right, okay, I'm going to go in now because the best song on this album is Suck the Blood from My Wound. The opening song. It just is. There's not really any argument about that. But
I think there's a little bit of an argument, just a tiny bit.
You're wrong. For me, this was, I think, my favourite album of the five. The five, other than obviously Big Thief, we'll talk about later, but it was my favourite album of the five new ones. It was just really interesting, I thought, and I think I get what you're saying. There is some sort of it's a bit of a different genre to what I'm used to listening to. Although some of it, I've said this so many times on the podcast, but there was some elements of David Bowie influence to it, definitely. But I think it's just like a really quite joyful sounding album and quite liberated sound. Like, because there's a lot of stuff about his coming out and about his, because he's a transvestite, so he talks about that quite a bit, hence the Red Dress song. But there's some quite dark issues in there. And I think one of the lines, which in the opening song, the line, "To them will always be freaks," kind of talked to me about what the whole album was about, really. It's kind of that recognising that people see you as a freak and just being unashamed about it and just going for it, really. So Suck the Blood was one of my favourite songs, but I've also written down Love You So Bad.
Unfortunate.
Compulsive Liar, I think, is one of the most interesting songs. It's a song about like the difficulty of coming out, but how if you hide your true self for longer, that's when you sort of become a compulsive liar, and that takes over your life. I thought that was really interesting. Now, the only thing I'd say that I didn't like was probably the last song, where I think he got. Do you remember Mika?
Oh, yeah.
The last song, I Lost My Innocence, just got a little bit too close to Mika territory for me.
Okay.
But other than that, I was a big fan. I'll definitely be seeing him at End of the Road. So yeah. What about
I
you, Matt?
also liked The Great Unknown. I don't think I mentioned that one as well. It was one of the other strong songs. I thought it had these really nice, this huge drum sound, like at a distance, which I thought was quite interesting. So that worked really well as well. That was another one.
So we've pretty much named all the songs. Well,
it's a lot of good stuff on it. I'm not slating it entirely. I just think it's got one huge issue.
The Mika song. Yeah.
The opening song.
I would say we have a consensus because, I thought it was a great album. It also probably my favourite.
Yay, there you go.
I wouldn't say Suck the Blood from My Wound was the best song.
It is.
But it was definitely a great start to the album.
Yeah.
But No Place was my favourite.
Yeah, No Place is great as well.
That just felt like almost like he was angry, and you could feel like that kind of almost assaulting you through your ears. But it was still also like the entire way through was still joyous, which was, it was great. I really enjoyed listening to this, and it's definitely was one I was maybe more skeptical going in, and then came out most changed probably.
Why do you think you were skeptical?
Well, I think I'd heard of him and been recommended him by people who I don't normally take their opinion to.
It's not because you're secretly a homophobe then.
Okay, no. He went there.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll move on.
Moving on. Fran.
Yes.
I'm going to come to you.
I hope you really get him with a difficult question. Not the one you prep for, but something completely unrelated would be great at that point.
Yeah, don't do that.
He deserves it.
I want an answer and a description for this. Which one is most likely going to get you to move? And so I wanted you to describe how you're going to move as well.
I will describe how I'm going to move, because I decided not to interpret this question in the way you were intending me to, because one, I don't dance. I mean, the only movement I make is when I'm very drunk, I lift my arms in the air and sort of shake them around a little bit.
I've seen you not dance before,
yeah,
actually.
Matt's seen it many times. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So none of them, and if I was going to choose an album that I may possibly have got drunk and then danced to, it would have been the Ezra Furman. So I decided to interpret it slightly differently, and the one that got me moving the most often to the skip button, and which would also get me moving if they came on stage. Although I'm going to say that I think maybe some of the later stuff's I'm going to enjoy more when I listen to it, but it would be the Yo La Tengo. If I was based just on this album, which is called I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One, I wouldn't be watching them at the festival, which is a shame because they're headlining the Thursday night, and I don't think there'll be that much of a choice, but I'll find something.
He'll dig around and find something somewhere.
I don't know, a terrible comedian or something like that. But it just felt a bit nothingy to me. Nothingy. It's a bit like St. Vincent-y. It's not a word.
Yeah.
I'm using it. It felt a bit nothingy. It felt a bit... This is a bit of a overstatement, but there was times when it felt like it was barely music to me.
Wow.
It was kind of just happening. Autumn Sweater, one of the songs, that's my main example of that. Like, I just didn't see what the point of it was from a lyric perspective, from a music perspective.
I think that's one of their biggest songs.
Is it? Right, I'm probably not going to like this band, am I? Like, I've been told by a friend who's a big fan that the more recent stuff is probably more my kind of thing. They've gone a bit more folky, so I'll give that a go. But the closest thing I can think to compare it to from previous podcasts we've done is the My Bloody Valentine. And I know it's not like that very musically, but I just think like the vocals were quite low in the mix a lot. The music was quite ploddy, it was quite repetitive, and it was just a bit shit. So yeah, that's kind of me on Yo La Tengo.
Wow.
Wow. And I'm not going to apologise.
What do you reckon, Nick?
I reckon he's wrong, but in several different ways. Actually, interestingly, he's not just wrong about one thing here. I mean, I would say I knew the band a little bit, but not this album. And I think that they do some things very, very well, and I really enjoyed those moments in the album, which are, to me, the more delicate and slower, sort of dreamy sort of music, which includes, for example, Autumn Sweater. Yeah, he just said he hated.
I like the way you use the word dreamy because I'm an insomniac, and this album can put me to sleep. So.
I thought I see what you're saying about My Bloody Valentine in a way, though, because I do think there was actually something very consistently kind of drifting around a lot of the melodies and stuff in these songs. So I think that actually works really well when they do that stuff. And I was actually surprised that there was a bit more variety than I was expecting away from that in some of this album. Again, I didn't know this album specifically at all. And actually, this album's when it drifts away from those quiet things and gets into the louder stuff, I was actually less into it. I felt like it didn't really suit them that well. For example, is it Sugar Cube?
Yeah,
that was one of the sort of louder ones, and it just didn't seem to gel for me. It just seemed a bit like noisy without any sort of melodic control. So I think they do some things very well. I also really liked, is it called Green Arrow? Yeah. That was a really sort of nice drifting song as well. Really sort of, I mean, I hesitate to say the word pleasant because I think that would be the kind of thing that Fran would be horrified to think it might be good. But I thought there was a lot of engaging stuff in it, but I just don't think, I think they're a band that needs to stick to what they really do well. And they didn't always in this case. There is one example I'll give though, 1 PM Again, it does sort of give a little bit of weight to Fran's perspective on the album because this one was so gentle, so soft that it felt like it just sort of dissipated into nothing. It was just, it was so sort of slight that it just had no weight behind it at all, and that crossed the line into a little bit boring for me.
So I like that you started off saying I'm wrong about so many things, and then you've just agreed with me on at least
one
thing. You agreed with me that, you know, it's Sugar Cube's terrible. I hadn't said that already, but I agreed. So we agreed.
I quite know to disagree with you if you haven't even said it yet. Anyway, so basically, you know, I think it had some really good stuff in it, but I wasn't totally in love with it. But I think it's got some good stuff in it. And I think Fran is definitely wrong, as I see on the screen in front of me. Fran is wrong.
You might have to explain that because otherwise,
So we've actually now got the logo on the screen for Matt's Skype
profile picture.
It actually says Fran is wrong in capital letters on it, which is absolutely perfect.
And yet Matt is the one that's wrong
occasionally.
Yeah.
Well, am I wrong on this one, Matt? Am I wrong on Yo La Tengo? Yeah.
I think you're definitely wrong. I think it's not a perfect album.
No.
By a long shot. But I thought it was interesting. I was did a bit of reading about them, and they started off as a covers band essentially with a ginormous back catalogue. And I think you can see some of that in this because to me it was quite diverse between each of the songs. Like every different song, I almost had a different artist written down for who's influenced it or what they're kind of drawing from, and it felt almost like they were aping all these different people while putting it in their own album, which is good and bad in some sense. So I just didn't think it was that cohesive as a whole, especially when it's such a long album.
Yeah.
It like the whole playlist that we put together this month
long
was
albums.
very long. But this one was like, it was like 16, 17 songs, and 2 of those were like 5+ minute.
Yeah, one's 10 minutes.
Yeah, and so
it was nearly 11 minutes, isn't it, Spec Bebop? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I enjoyed a lot of it, but it just got a bit too much by the end. But one song I did really like, which I probably don't, was Moby Octopus, because I just thought it was really fun.
That's the second. That's one with the sort of driving bass, isn't it? So like really bass-driven song. Yeah, I actually like that song quite a bit. Yeah, I thought the bass was really tight on it as well. It was really clean and present. Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
it's weird to hear you both saying so much about the variation and stuff, because it just all sounded the same to me, apart from a couple of songs that stuck out for being particularly annoying. Sugar Cube and Autumn Sweater being the 2 main ones. I couldn't. This when you're saying a lot of the songs, I can't. No, them 2 aren't similar. I'd like to say they're 2 that stick out, but I can't. You're saying a lot of song names, and I can't pick out which one's which, because they all sounded quite samey to me.
Maybe you should just put the work in, Fran. Maybe you should make an effort.
I will admit that this is the album I've probably listened to the least the whole time we've done Picky Bastards.
Come on.
Honestly.
This is the worst album we've done.
I'm not saying it's the worst, because sometimes with the albums that I've really not liked, I've spent a bit more time with them to try and figure out what it is I hated about it. I mean, maybe I listened to Paul Bearer less than this, but I wouldn't say there's anything else other than... Oh, God, Go Team. All right, okay. It's not the least. Oh, no, actually, I think I listened to the Go Team more than I listened to this. I do think I listened to the Go Team more than I listened to this. But I never got all the way through it very often, but I tried it more than I tried this, because I was just bored by this, whereas Go Team made me angry, so I could at least enjoy being an angry bastard for a bit.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, are we have other questions, or should we go into some of the ones?
Where we what did you struggle with any of the albums, Nick, or were you positive about them all?
No, I was not positive about them all. No,
okay.
I think there was nothing on this list that I absolutely loved.
Really?
I'm talking about the main acts now, not the Big Thief that you're going to talk Why I Love later.
Yeah.
There were none of them I loved. I thought there was a lot of inconsistency in some of them, which was kind of frustrating. So, for example, let me talk about Protomartyr. Should we talk about Protomartyr?
Yes, let's go for it.
I thought it was. I thought it started off really well, actually. I'm trying to remember the name of the opening track.
You liked an opening song?
I did, yeah. It's staggering, isn't it? Private Understanding.
Yeah.
Was a really great way to open the album up, and it seemed really, really fresh and not just like a generic rock band. I mean, it still sounded melodic, and I think it worked really well. I think over the course of the album, my feeling was that it sort of lost direction a little bit and started to drift into things that were a bit more all over the place melodically. I didn't hate it, but for example, I also liked. Is it Catriona? Is that one of the song titles?
We'll go with that.
I think that's pronouncing that correctly. That was a strong one as well. But in general, in the second half of the album, I was a lot less interested in the first half.
No.
He says no. What a surprise. So to me, it just seemed like, I don't know if I'd say they ran out of ideas would be really unfair, but in this set of songs, the best ideas had come up early on and have been pushed through more coherently in the first half of the album than the second half. That's all I would say.
Okay.
Well, so why don't you go in first? Exactly. Yeah.
Before Fran wrecks
before we start shouting about it again.
Okay.
I agree with you, Nick.
Okay.
You think the first half's better?
Yeah. I also felt it like I lost interest towards the end. Like the first song, I also agree, is a great song. It was very haunting. I thought the way the drums kind of bounced around.
The first song is great.
So quite hypnotic.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like this kind of music often I'm gonna like it because of the style, irregardless.
Yeah.
And if it's bad, I'm still gonna enjoy listening to it. I think it was good.
Call this bad.
So that made
okay, good.
Made it even more pleasurable.
Okay.
But I don't. My favorite song was The Chuckler. I thought that was funny.
Okay.
It's not just because of the title.
No, I was just like,
you never actually listened to it. You
just saw the title.
I thought it was hilarious.
The sarcasm all the way through was. I think it was funny. It was a solid song.
Did you hear? I know it was before you were involved, but did you hear Oxbow at all? Have you ever heard the Oxbow album?
I listened to it a couple times.
Okay, I just wondered if you thought there was any correlation because I feel like there's a little bit of an overlap.
And I didn't listen to it enough to be able to.
Oh, okay, all right, no worries.
I did.
I can't dig it out of memory.
Fran hated it, so we'll see what he thinks.
I didn't hate it. I just thought it was crap.
And there we sum up Fran's perspective on Picky Bastards.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
I know what I mean. But are you still going, Matt? You want me to jump in? Or?
Yeah. I just said one more thing. In general, I like that there were a few songs where there was like very immediate drumming, and it was followed by like a slower guitar melody, and they were the songs that really I think grabbed me.
Yeah.
And I think when they tried to vary from that, it didn't work as well for me.
One other thing I would just drop in as well is that I thought there was some association with Husker Du personally, with that.
Don't know they are.
Oh my god! All right,
That sounds like a cartoon.
You're fired.
Shawadi. Did you say
Husker Du?
Yeah.
Are you saying neither of you know who?
Brother?
Oh my god! You
Shaggy
people
did.
are so young. It's just sickening. All right, never mind.
Carry on.
Another band who are very important and who did a lot of great stuff.
They could have got a better name though, couldn't they?
Let's just.
Husker Du.
You can't slate a band you've never even heard of until 2 seconds ago. All right, never mind. Forget that. I was just going to say that was an association. People who recognise good music and know some about music history might actually realise that's a good association.
Husker Du,
So.
They're huge. Right, okay, so I'm going to...
A seminal band.
Talk about your points about the first half being better than the second half. Well, the best 3 songs on this album are Male Plague, Corpses in Regalia, and Half Sister, which are the last 3 songs. Corpses in Regalia is outstanding. Absolutely love that song. His delivery on it is incredible. There's the bit where he sings about drinking Balthazars and drinking Nebuchadnezzars, which are, I don't know what they are, but the way he delivers it is just amazing. He's got a brilliant delivery. I really love his... And this is maybe where... I can see what you're saying with Oxbow, but I couldn't stand that guy's voice or his delivery. I thought this guy...
You see they're on the same sort of map. They're trying to do the same kind of stuff. Yeah.
But these, for me, did it a lot better. Okay. I think it's a really dense album, and I think... it's difficult to unpick in a way, but I think after spending a lot of time with it, I just kind of think it's great. I've read a bit of the lyrics and stuff like that, and they've got some quite dark apocalyptic lyrics. But for me, I didn't spend that much time thinking about that in the end. Which usually lyrics are the big thing to me, but I just enjoyed listening to them. I just think they're really quite aggressive. They're quite aggressive,
quite but maybe I was hoping when I heard the name Protomartyr that we were going to reach a black metal band that I liked.
But you can't spend every time we do a playlist.
They just aren't heavy enough.
If something's not heavy enough for what you're expecting, then it's not good enough. It's not how music works, man.
All music serves me.
Yeah, it's just not the way the world works.
Yeah.
I think this. I mean, I said the Ezra Furman before, but this was. It's a toss-up between the two for me. I really, really like this album. And I would have picked it as the one I'd most like to see in a live setting. I think they'll be amazing live. Really good. And I'm not going to argue that I think the whole album's strong, personally. And Private Understanding, the opening song's great as well. The Chuckler is good. Don't Go to Anaceta's good. I just thought it was really strong. And I kind of thought both of you would like it more than you do. So.
Oh, I still like it.
I still think it's all right, yeah. I still think it's all right. I just think it's...
Corpses in Regalia, though, both seriously, listen to that song again. It's an amazing song. It's the best song on this playlist. I'm going to put that out there. Yeah. Well, it's one of the best songs on the playlist. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to tell you about your why you love Big Thief.
Stuff.
I'm not getting into that business.
But
But Corpses in Regalia is the best on the 5 other albums. For me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Cool. So Matt,
any more questions, Matt?
Yeah, Fran, what do you want to talk about? Soccer Mummy or Gruff Rhys?
Well, I'll go with Soccer Mummy, which the album's called Clean. This was the album I had most difficulty making my mind up about, actually. I think my expectations were really high because I'd been following the End of the Road Twitter and on Reddit and stuff, and when Soccer Mommy were announced, so many people were really excited, and they're actually, this album was given the best new music of the week in Pitchfork, which for me usually I quite like Pitchfork. I think they choose pretty well. So with such high expectations, my initial feeling was a bit of disappointment, really. I think Nick said it in a few recent podcasts that it maybe feels a bit facile and a little bit weak sometimes, some of the things they're singing about. But I did think it did grow on me, and I think there's something quite endearing about her sort of honesty and her just complete lack of any attempt to be cool. She's just kind of happy to just show that she's a bit of a geek and doesn't really have a cool bone in her body, which, you know, I thought was... I got into that a little bit, and I also think there's a couple of songs on it. There's a song called Your Dog, which I really liked, and that pulled me back in quite a bit, and a song called Skin that I liked. It kind of ended up being one of the ones I listened to the most, but I think, again, as I said, I think we said about Princess Nokia last time and a couple of others, I think there's more potential there than there is that she's where she might get to. She's really young, I think, like 21 or something, so yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. It wasn't as good as I was expecting. But I'll stick with her, despite the terrible name, Soccer Mommy. I'll give her a go. But yeah, I mean, that's probably me.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think?
So I like this album a lot. Yeah, it's like another tale of like young heartbreak.
Yeah.
But I think she remains quite like happy throughout. It's quite bright and happy, which, considering some of the subjects she's talking about, is quite impressive. For me, I was comparing it back to J-Song.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the difference between them? What do you think? Because I compared them as well, but
I was thinking that really it's just a lot better done. I think maybe it's just because it's a bit poppier, but it just connected to me a lot more than J-Song did. And I thought it was really good. I want to go see her now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think she builds the songs in a lot more effective way than J-Song. Like the Scorpio Rising in the middle of the album.
Yeah.
It's such a great way it builds.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Much more effective than anything I think I heard in the J-Song album. And so that's why I prefer this one a lot more. And yeah, she's crazy young. So she just dropped out of the university I work at.
Oh, really?
She's only like 20, so she's going to do tons of stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But J-Song as well. She's also still young, so
yeah,
lots to come, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to predict what Nick says about this, but I think I know.
You are going to predict that in your mind. So yeah, I think it kind of went through two cycles listening to this album a few times through. One was there was some really interesting things went on in the first couple of songs with breaking traditional song recording methods. One was in the opening song, I think it was. There's panning. There's a panning change where suddenly near the end of the song, she moves off to very hard to the right or something, and then just suddenly pulls back in again, and it's a really disorientating effect, which I thought was really cool and interesting, you know. And then in the second song, near the end again, there's like a tempo thing where it sort of breaks. It suddenly starts to slow itself down. I don't know if you remember that. And the song is Cool. The song is called Cool, and it has this moment really near the end where it sort of breaks down. I thought, wow, this is really doing some interesting stuff that puts a different spin on the kind of traditional guitar indie kind of music. But I have to say, as I went through it further and went over it a few more times, I started to feel like those things were there to mask what was not that exciting songwriting. I think the J-Song was better, personally.
Yeah, I think I would slightly put the J-Song above it, but I think I would put it. I definitely put the J-Song ahead. To me, the songwriting was extremely clean and plain. And then these effects, I felt a little bit like when I got further into the album, I've been a bit duped
because like a producer, and maybe her or a producer who was working with her, had said, right, we got this kind of acoustic ballad you're going to do. Let's screw around with the panning on this, or let's do something radical with tempo and stuff, to try and map that over it. It wasn't integral to the music. And that was really disappointing. So, after initially hearing, I listened to I don't know if you do the same thing, both of you. I listen maybe to the first 3 or 4 songs, and then I go again, listen to the first few 4, and then through to the rest. And then
nobody does that. That's weird.
Oh, I always try to dig in a little bit and dig in again a bit further each time. So I hear the start of the album a lot, and then I start to hear further and further, and it depends kind of how well it goes, how far I get with that. But
that's crazy.
That's strange,
really?
man. It's an album.
I've always done it that way.
And you always talk about not shuffling things and stuff like that.
But each one is it's hard to describe. It's like being introduced again and again.
I kind of feel like you shouldn't have revealed that.
Okay, well, I
feel that.
Did you used to do that
makes you
with CDs?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Just skip back.
Just start again.
All the time with albums.
Unless I sit down, if I listen to the whole album, if I sit there for an hour and listen to the whole album, I will, of course.
Wow.
But if I'm coming back to it afresh, I won't always start in the middle again. I'll start from the start of the story, as it were. So there you go. So what do you mean that would be weird? Each option is weird. You can't say both ways are weird. Pick one. My point is that those first few songs that had those kind of interesting things on them, or very explicit, interesting things on them, had kind of led me into something that I felt like I'd been kind of a little bit duped into, feeling that there was more radical stuff going on than actually was. So to me, it was disappointing. I know she's really young, and I'm sure good luck to her. I'm sure she'll do great stuff and all that stuff. But to me, it's not something that in itself right now I'm that interested in.
Well, there you go. I mean,
fair enough.
I think interestingly, I'd fall right in the middle of you two. I'd say I think it's better than Nick saying, but I think, Matt, you've got a bit carried away with yourself. So,
well, as always, Fran, you're wrong.
Fran is wrong. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see. I will see her live, I think, unless she clashes with someone else.
Yeah.
Just as anyone else playing in the festival and the 6 stages or whatever.
If she clashes with Protomartyr or Ezra Furman, then yeah, I'll be going to them. But if she's...
So it's only Yo La Tengo you're not going to see.
I mean, I honestly do think I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to more Yo La Tengo. I'm going to listen because I think when End of the Road released the lineup, I kind of created a playlist and I listened to their latest album, and I remember thinking it was okay. So I think I might like them more than I like that album, if you know what I mean. But if they were playing that album in full, I probably wouldn't go to the festival.
There is a hell of a lot of buzz around Soccer Mommy as well. I mean, you talk about Pitchfork, and Enemy have been all over it as well. I mean, it's just been I've read about it all over the place. So I feel like it's maybe don't listen to me. Just everyone should just go out and listen to Soccer Mommy. I'm sure you'll love it.
She retweeted a comment the other day that someone had made on Pitchfork, and it just said the fact that you have. It's something along the lines of the fact that you've chosen Soccer Mommy as the best new music of this week makes you a laughable institution, and I will never be listening to your reviews again or something. And she'd retweeted it, so she's obviously got a sense of humour about it. And,
that's good.
And gets it. And she's quite relatable on Twitter, actually. I recommend people follow her because she's just very down to earth and normal, which she sounds like in her music, which I hope maybe as she progresses, she might get a little bit more lyrically interesting. There is some stuff like in Your Dog where she talks about someone chewing her up and spitting her out of the teeth, which is quite interesting. But sometimes when she's talking about I want to be that cool and stuff, I just felt a little bit like, come on, you can write a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
So I think that I want to see a bit of progress.
Fran and I are in agreement for once on that one.
But it is better than you're saying it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right.
So that leaves just Gruff Rhys. So why don't you start actually on this one?
Yeah, haven't you started yet, have you?
Yeah. Well, I guess we need a bit of backing for this. It's a soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
To a movie, which I don't know what movie it is, but
it's about some poet guy, possibly John Malcolm Brennan, because that's the name of the first song. I'll tell you that apparently it's a critically panned film that's got something like 3.4 on IMDb. So just to put that context in there, because I thought about watching it, so I had a bit of context, but then I read the reviews and thought, no.
Yeah, I exactly the same. I looked it up and then forgot the name, but I was like, no, it's not worth putting myself through that. And listening to the album itself, so some of the songs were quite fun in the way that they were set in a certain time period, and so you had kind of the jazzier elements, or I quite like the song Atom Bomb. That was quite fun.
I'll get to what I've written about that song.
Okay. The only real good that was like maybe I'd put this in a playlist for listening to separately was the title track.
Set Fire to the
Because
Stars.
I thought that was the only cohesive song that stood by itself.
Mm.
And a lot of the songs themselves felt like they were little themes or obviously related to certain characters or certain moments, and they kept on getting chopped and modified, which was an interesting process to listen to, but it's not something I'd really revisit, I don't think. I think it would mean a lot more if I did watch the movie, but I'm not sure I'm convinced by the album to actually go and do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say that when I discovered... So first of all, I love Gruff Rhys's work in the past, and Super Animals' work is huge for me, and we might do a Why I Love in due course about Super Furries. But when I saw this was a soundtrack, I was immediately disheartened because it's so hard for a soundtrack not to fall foul of a lot of problematic things around breaking songs up into lots of little bits, turning different mixes out as different songs when they're not really different songs, not having the narrative focus of the movie to understand what the point of all the moves are that are made. I mean, also this album, is it 24 songs? Is that right? 20 something songs?
Something silly like that, but a lot of them, to be fair, are like 30 seconds long.
Exactly. So, but I've got to say, I mean, I know they're trying to replicate what's done in the movie, but don't replicate things that are 20 seconds long.
You don't have to put every bit of music in.
You don't have to put it all in there. Put in the songs that really are songs that represent something to do with what the music's about. Rather, I mean, this is pretty much a sound effect bank, isn't it? I mean, it's just like every single time anyone opened a door or something, there's the sound of that on the recording, you know. So,
I mean, there's a run of songs called Log Cabin 1, Log Cabin 2, Log Cabin 3, and it was just, doors opening.
Now, all that said, he still has a very beautiful voice, and I think the instrumentation on some of the songs, such as the title track, as you mentioned, Matt, are really beautiful. But ultimately, that doesn't make an album. That's a single, maybe an EP. 24 songs of it is really a problem. So I don't really hold Gruff Rhys responsible for that in a way. I mean, I feel like that's the album producers have put this out as a collection, and they've made a big mistake, I think, in that respect. So
I think you're letting him off the hook a little bit there. I think he was very in charge of this.
Was he? Well, then
it looks like, and I think
I'm sad to say then he's made some mistakes with it. I feel like, because it's I think he's been so clever, and also talking about the good math that I do with the album and stuff. Many bands I love. Of the many bands I love, Super Animals might be one of the best cohesive album makers. They really make narrative out of albums, and brilliant trajectory. The whole arc is fantastic. So to have something like this was just a lot of fragments, sort of thrown together with some beautiful setting and some beautiful instrumentation here and there, is just really unfortunate. So it was a letdown for me. I was looking forward to it, and I understand now. I actually noticed, I think, a new single's come out, so maybe
he's got a new album coming out next week, apparently.
Yeah, so we've just kind of missed the boat, unfortunately, timing-wise, to get the actual new album reviewed. But maybe it's great. I mean, all the stuff he's done, or a lot of the stuff he's done in the past, has been great. So I still would encourage everyone to check that out when it's out. But this piece of work is a bit of a mess, honestly.
You did a video game soundtrack before, right?
Did he?
I can't remember
we did. We did. Yeah, we did.
No,
Daughter.
you guys did.
Yeah, we did Daughters.
Yeah, and that was actually cohesive.
That was stunning.
I didn't like it, but it was a lot better than this. I'll say that. Yeah, it was a lot more coherent than this.
I think soundtracks can be, but I think that's probably the choice of choosing, okay, I'm going to use the bits of music that are actually bits of music. I'm not going to use every little guitar strum that I do. And I think that's, I mean, soundtracks sometimes, think about, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels soundtrack or the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. They're some of my favourite albums. They're brilliant. Yeah. So you can do a good soundtrack.
Ultimately, this seems like they're trying to do like some kind of archiving exercise or something. We just want to keep a record of everything that's ever been done.
Maybe because the film failed so much, they were trying to make something out of it.
some salvageable parts. Yeah.
Apparently, he released this at the same time as American Interior, which also was weirdly the soundtrack to a book, which I don't know if you heard about that, but he wrote a book called American Interior, which my girlfriend Kirsten she grew up in Wales and she's read it, and it's about, because obviously he's Welsh, he went to America and spent some time trying to find like the Welsh communities in America, and he wrote a soundtrack to that, which I've heard, and which is infinitely better than this.
I've heard that, and it's also so much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think maybe this was him. which actually I'm going to say it's him doing something that is not really his style, but he's clearly got talent to make the sort of jazzy lounge pop style music, and it's a clever, pretty piece of work, but eventually it's just boring, and there's the kind of repetitiveness of that one tune that he has in a lot of the songs.
One melodic structure, which I know they have to do that in a movie. Yeah, but you don't need to replicate all those versions.
And it's in nearly every song across the album at some point. And again, I picked out Set Fire to the Stars, but also Tremble to the Light as two really lovely pieces of music that I would listen to again. But in general, I mean, I found you mentioned Atom Bomb, Matt. That song and Be Chop Shop were just so annoying. It's so annoying, like irritating. But you said last time about Rye being a ringtone. That was like a ringtone to me. So it's a shame because I don't know Super Furry Animals that well, and I would like it if you did that introductory playlist to them because I've always been intrigued by them. But if this was the first thing I'd heard by him, I wouldn't be. Yeah, I recognise the talent.
Don't anyone judge Super Furries or his solo work.
I think that's a fair thing to say, definitely, because I think even the few songs that I do know by the Super Furry Animals is, way ahead of this. But yeah, I mean, it's a soundtrack and it's something he was doing for a bit of fun, probably. So fair play to him, I think. But the ones with poems on as well, God, they were painful.
Okay, well, we've suitably dismantled that one then. So,
Elijah Wood features on one of the songs. I just want to say that Frodo is on one of the songs. Yes. So there is that.
It was hot that summer. I see that credit.
It's horrible.
Okay, so let's talk about why you love Big Thief, shall we?
Matt, tell us.
So, I first listened to Big Thief they've only got 2 albums out, and I heard the opening track or the first single from the first album, Masterpiece, and played that song to death when it came out in 2016, I think. And it was such a good song, and the album as a whole was really, really good, but it felt very like first album kind of thing. And they're still finding their feet. And then within 9 months, they came out with the album which I put on the playlist, which is Capacity. And I think as an album as a whole, it for me is fantastic. And I've listened to that so much over the past year. I'm surprised it wasn't included in some of your best album of the year reviews.
I think I did see it in some of the top 40s and stuff, but it didn't make it to the top because we were picking the top 2, so it didn't make it as high as that. But yeah, it was definitely in some of the top 10s, I think.
But I think to be able to come and do a follow-up a debut so strongly and so quickly is quite rare. And the her singing itself within the album is so strong. It's like the driving force behind the band, I think. And she has like an amazing story. Like she didn't go to high school. Her dad paid for her to have session musicians to play with her when she was like in her teens. She eventually got into college without a high school diploma. Wow. Just by turning up to the interview with her guitar.
That's amazing.
Where did she go then? Did she go to Berkeley or somewhere?
Yeah, she went to Berkeley.
She went to Berkeley. Okay, right.
That's not a bad place to go and do music.
Yeah.
And so like her whole story and mythology around the band is awesome. But really, like what I like about it is just her vocals, the way she conveys like the rawness of all the emotion that she's has throughout the song, but also like there's some melancholy, there's a lot of happiness, and above all, it's very, very intimate and sincere. And it's something I don't necessarily hear because some of the music stylings is similar to some other bands that are out there at the moment. She's often compared to like Lucy Dacus,
who was also playing End of the Road.
Yeah, and I think she's great, but what Big Thief does for me and edges over Lucy is the fact that she just has that sincerity about what's going on, while Lucy Dacus has more of a kind of slight witty edge to her instead. And normally that appeals to me, but for some reason the intimacy and the way she's conveying the songs for Big Thief, it really hits me. And so, yeah, I obviously put just Capacity up, but I also recommend go back and check the previous albums out, or the previous album, and specifically Masterpiece.
The album's called Masterpiece, right? As well.
The album's called Masterpiece. The song, and there's an acoustic version as well. And it's great. It's really, really great. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what you guys think. What do you reckon, Fran?
I'll go first. I'll say, well, I hated this album so much that I bought it on vinyl. I've got it on vinyl now, and I went to see them live this month. So yeah, I was a bit of a fan, really. In fact, I'd say, if I'm being honest, in the whole time I've been doing Picky Bastards, this is possibly my favourite album that I've discovered new. Odyssey and Hooray for the Riff Raff would rival that, but there's just it is a lot of what you've been saying is it really. She's amazing. They have pretty much everything I look for in a band, really. Her lyrics are brilliant, and they're doing folk, but they're doing it with their own interesting sort of twist. And her vocal range, which you've mentioned, is the big thing for me on Mythological Beauty. The way she switches between the high and low register is just amazing.
It seems so easy.
Yeah, and that high register that she's got, I mean, that is fascinating how she does that with her voice. It's kind of brilliant because it's not like I mean, you can say high register, but it's not like a normal singer when they go. She's just something really interesting with her voice. Pretty difficult for me to choose a favourite song off the album. I love Pretty Things, I love Capacity, I love Coma, I love Mythological Beauty, Mary, so most of them. But if you were going to put a gun to my head, I'd go with Shark Smile, which I know a lot of people have chosen as their favourite song, but just the way she delivers it. There's the line, and she said, "Woo, take me," and I said, "Woo, take me too." It's such a simple line, but the way she delivers it, it was one of those, when you listen to a song and you're waiting for a line to come because you love that part of the song so much. I mean, I must have listened to this song 50 times this month and I'm not bored of it. So, yeah, I was pretty much a fan. And I think me and Nick should probably admit now that we went together.
So what happened?
To see them.
Let's just say that we followed all the rules, and well, I followed the rules even more to some extent because I hadn't actually got around to listening to this album at all, or this band ever before when I saw them live. And we went to the gig and we did not talk about any past of the gig. We literally just ended the gig, left, and just went our separate ways, and have not said a word about it until today. So we did follow the rules.
That sounds so bizarre.
Yeah, it was really an odd
experience. It was weird because I wanted
luckily,
to be
though,
like, how amazing is this?
Luckily,
especially the little guitar tone bit she did, but we couldn't say it.
Luckily, though, the support act for that gig was so interesting. We had lots to say about that, which we won't go into now.
I think we probably should go into it now. Yeah. I mean, we debated whether the support act. I won't mention the name, even though
let's not do that.
A lot of people will know it was. We debated whether it was the worst gig we'd ever seen. The support act was so bad.
The support act.
Yeah, not Big Thief.
Very, very clear.
Big Thief were phenomenal. Yeah. Big Thief were phenomenal, but the support act, I don't know what. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, there's no words for that. Let's
move on.
Let's move on. Don't kick someone when they're down. Oh. So let me say then that my experience of the band was really odd because I come to the band never having heard them and then go to this gig. And I thought within about 30 seconds, it was really clear that they were a really excellent sort of musical unit together. The drummer was really involved. It wasn't, although I see what you're saying about her vocal, but it wasn't just her vocal that was carrying it. There was a lot of dynamism in the drumming. The bass player was really solid with it. So I think actually, though, the biggest musical element for me that I absolutely loved in that live experience in particular was her guitar playing, which had this incredible overdrive on it, which meant that, in other words, when she played delicately, the signal was very, very clean. And when she played aggressively, it wasn't like she put a pedal on. The actual effect of the overdrive meant they sounded very broken and sort of gravelly. Yeah. And I love that tone. I've always been into overdrive anyway, but that's just it was a brilliant example of that use of a guitar.
Yeah, and
that meant that her vocals
on, the song Real Love, which is from the last album, she just the guitar solo she did on that was just mind-blowing. But
so the vocals were great. She was pushing herself really hard. She was really sort of jumping around in registers and stuff, but the guitar was matching it so well. The pairing was just excellent. So I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the album as well in general when I got back to it, but I will say that sadly for me, because the gig was so good, the album was never quite as amazing as the seeing her live for the very first time. It couldn't compare to this. She was just leaping around. She was really, really into it. It was so loud, obviously. So I don't know what to say about the album except that I thought it's got a lot of excellent things on it. I think it was very consistent, really well executed. But I think seeing them live is really worthwhile. I just think it was that was just a stellar performance. So that's why when you said at the start, well, what would I want to see live? This is the band I'd want to see live out of those 6 without question, because not only are they the best of the 6 bands anyway, but they're also the biggest disparity between the quality of their recording and the live show, because to my guess anyway, because this was just such a riveting show. So loved it.
I think having bought the album on vinyl, I think it's worth sitting down, maybe listening to the album on vinyl as well, because that obviously lifts it a little bit.
I bet it does.
What we're listening to.
I bet it does. Yeah.
It just sounds phenomenal, and it's been pretty much non-stop rotation on my player at home recently, which luckily Kirsten likes it, so she's not been getting too annoyed, because usually when I get this obsessed with an album, it starts to get her down. So with this one, she's a fan as well. So, nice. But I mean, the gig was absolutely brilliant, and she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. So I think we liked her, Matt.
I think you chose wisely. You've chosen wisely. Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant.
Have you seen her live? Seen them live?
No.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
Every time they've been here, I've been busy. So I haven't been able to go.
Does it make you feel even better if I tell you that I got free tickets?
Yeah, it was free review tickets.
What? I hate you so much.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was really brilliant.
That's amazing.
She'll be back.
But we did have to go through the support act. So.
Yeah, the support act was so dire.
Yeah. There was one really funny thing about the gig that we were able to talk about, was in between the songs, she did these 5-minute little speeches about how we should all be one with the earth. We should sometimes take all our clothes off and lie down against the soil so that we could feel our connectedness to one humanity and stuff just amazing. I mean, and it was it was not written or anything. She was just totally free flowing with these ideas, one after another, for
her bandmates were looking
minutes.
She was crazy.
Yeah, they were looking at are you okay? But I mean, it didn't matter. It was a great show, but I just thought that it was kind of hilarious.
Well, that was interesting, but I had to get a train.
Oh yeah,
back to where I lived that night. So I was kind of thinking, shut up, play the songs, because I didn't get to hear Capacity. And I didn't get to hear... I'm imagining she would have played Paul from the first album. I'm obviously showing here that I've also spent this month listening to the first album as well, which is great, actually. I think it's very good. Its Capacity is better, but there's some beautiful songs on that first album. Paul's an amazing song. Actually, the one thing I wanted to ask you, though, Matt, I'm wondering if the main reason
have you ever
really
seen her live,
like
Matt?
this... Yeah, have you seen her live? No. Generally, though, I kind of wondered if the reason you love this album so much is because the very first word on the very first song is your name. Starts the album by singing Matthew, and it's this is your favourite album. So,
And they have a song called Paul, which is my last name.
Which is your last name.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's the whole reason you like them?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great. Okay, so shall we talk about next time?
Yes.
Yeah.
We shall.
Okay, so...
So is it me leading next time? Yeah.
It's you, Fran, right?
Yep.
So why don't we talk... I'll say what I'm going to go with first then, shall I, for next time cycle? So it's not a sort of unusual one this time. We're doing a normal selection of albums, the normal selection of albums that we haven't heard before, but we've just heard of. So I'm doing Wye Oaks, The Louder I Call, The Faster It Runs, and also Mount Erie's Now Only. Matt?
I'll be suggesting Jean Grey's and Kelly Chris's Everything's Fine, and also the album from Screaming Females called All at Once.
Okay, and I'll be the classic next time is going to be... I've been spending a lot of time listening to a podcast called Hip Hop Saved My Life by I can't say his name, Ramesh. I'm not going to say his surname. He's a comedian from Sri Lanka. And every person I've listened to so far has said their favourite hip-hop album of all time is Ready to Die by the Notorious B.I.G. So that'll be our classic next time. And I'll be telling you why I love Nadine Shah. And I'm not going to do a playlist this time. I'm going to use the album Holiday Destination, which came out last year, which is her third album. So
that's good. Let's get back to albums. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I thought a long time about doing a playlist, but that album just... Well, you'll hear next time what I think about that album.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to listen to the playlist, they can go to bit.ly/Picky Bastards playlist.
That's a new invention by Matt, so respect to Matt.
High tech.
He knows what he's doing.
Wow. Bitly. Okay.
And we have a Twitter, so you should tweet at us and let us know what you think about the albums.
Yes.
And that's Fran.
We're at Picky Bastards, capital P, capital B. Come and say hello.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks very much.
All right. Thanks a lot.
June.
See you in a month.
Yeah. See you soon.
Bye.